What do humans need to survive? Well, water, food, and shelter. Those are really the core three things that a human needs to survive: water, food, and shelter. And water would definitely be a top priority because the human body needs water a lot more frequently than it does food. You know, you can go for weeks without eating food technically, but you can only go, depending, several days without water. So water is essential, and keeping yourself hydrated essential. Food, obviously, look, you need to feed yourself. You should eat healthy food. I'm definitely into health, being that I lost 200 pounds. I used to be obese. So I'm into good, healthy food. But you have to make the mental note that the body can go a long time without food, but not too long without water. And then you need shelter. But how you define shelter is going to be a relative term. The early settlers defined shelter as a hut, basically a tent. A tent in a cave was pretty much, mankind's first documented dwelling. Either people would live in a cave or a tent. And then as society and humans evolved, the dwellings and the shelter, they got more complex. And in today's society, especially in America, most houses are oversized. I would say about 70% of the square footage in most people's houses is waste. They don't use it on a regular basis or in a practical manner. So, shelter can be a car. A car will, in many instances, keep you away from the elements. And that's the purpose of shelter, that you don't get the brunt force of the elements. Now, what a car can't do that a house, in some instances, is it can't provide you heating and cooling at night when your car is not running. But at any time, you can start your car, and your car is a generator, and you can generate heating or air conditioning just by using your car. Cars are very advanced. And if you had a Toyota Prius or a hybrid, you can run your car at night off your hybrid battery as far as an air conditioning for maybe up to a half hour or so before your car would have to just kick on intermittently to recharge that battery. But even if you went bare bones like I did, and you lived 2 years, let's say in the Northeast, I lived 2 years in New Jersey and I survived 2 winters. And there were some nights where it was negative below zero. The shelter of the car kept the brunt force of the winds and the snow off me. I still felt the extreme cold temperatures, but the car acts as a shelter. And it will keep the brunt force of the elements, whether it's extreme wind, extreme rain, extreme snow, even to some extent heat. It can shade you. Obviously that's going to depend a little bit where you park. And again, obviously I acknowledge that you don't have full heating and air conditioning when it's not running. I supplement that with a battery-powered fan, and I layered up when I lived in New Jersey. I put many layers of clothes. I bought a sleeping bag that's rated for down to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And really, the cold temperatures didn't start to bother me until they got into the teens and single digits. And now I live in Florida, and the hot temperatures really don't bother me. And in August, it can get pretty hot. That's like the height of the summer months. But at nighttime, naturally, the air cools somewhat, and depending your situation on where you parked, it could be a little bit better than others. And from insects, from animals, that's another reason for shelter. Does your car protect you from bears, lions, mosquitoes? Well, bears and lions, definitely, your car protects you, right? That's the purpose for shelter, for humans to survive. But, like no-see-um gnats and like mosquitoes, you could rig up some netting and it could help. The small little gnats, what I learned living in Florida in the summer, that could be an issue, depending on where you park. If you're in heavily wooded areas, definitely. But if you're at a truck stop in a concrete jungle, You don't really have to worry about bugs, even in Florida, even at the height of the summer. So I'm pointing out in this video what a human needs to survive. Water is the number one essential thing. Food, yes, but you can go, again, weeks technically. You don't want to, but technically you can go weeks without food. And shelter. And shelter, a car is a great form of shelter. I've lived in my car for 2 years. Have I ever got sick? Yes, I've got sick a couple of times. I mainly contributed, one of the times I got sick in New Jersey was not from living in my car, but I went from my job to the store, in and out several times without a coat on and without a hat on. And that's how you really get sick in the cold. It's that you run from indoors, you run from your office to your car, from your car to the supermarket, and during that transition period, you don't feel like putting on all the layers of clothes. You say, I'll just run in real quick and I'll deal with it. And that's enough to, get into your immune system and start to crack your health. And then obviously, look, it's cold at night or it's hot at night, depending on where you live. And, certainly that plays a part in regulating your body temperature. But your body temperature, your body temperature on average, is in the 90s. So, there's room for buffer there before you start to affect your health. But my main point of this video here is just to point out what a human needs to survive. And that a car is a great form of shelter. There are better forms. There are more wasteful forms too. But if you look back from the caveman era, from caves and from tents, they did it. Now, their life expectancy was a little bit lower too, but also consider, they didn't have the readily available food. They didn't have the medicine. They didn't have the technology. So I wouldn't contribute that a big part of it to shelter. I would contribute it to the variety of how society has advanced. But I'm just sharing some thoughts, on the nomadic life and on what a human needs to survive. Because, in life, you think about that. What do I need to survive? And then what do I need to thrive? Think about that. Peace and love.